Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com.
Welcome to Jitasa University, where our goal is to empower nonprofits through free educational content. These short videos are all provided by trusted partners within our network as well, so each topic will be relevant to every organization, regardless of size. Let's dive right in. This month, we're featuring Matt Eshleman, the Chief Technology Officer at Community IT Innovators. As a 100% employee-owned and managed outsourced IT services provider, they exclusively assist nonprofit organizations in utilizing technology to accomplish their missions, and have been doing so for over 20 years. Let's pass things over to Matt and get started with the content.
Great. Thanks for that introduction, and I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about AI and some of the intersections with that and cybersecurity. So my name is Matt Eshleman. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Community IT. I've been with Community IT actually for a little over 22 years, so it's been a long time working with a wide range of nonprofit organizations in a variety of different sectors, mostly in that small to mid-sized space. And it's great to get that perspective and variety of client experiences. So Community IT, we are actually an employee-owned company, and our mission is really to advance our client's mission through the effective use of technology. We are a 100% employee-owned company, which is great. Get to work with great clients and also have really great fellow employee owners. And we are recognized as one of the top 501 MSPs in the United States. And so that's an honor that we've received now for the last several years. And again, here last year in 2023. So as we think about this topic of AI and innovation and just all the changes that it's really brought to the sector and the space, I think it's helpful just to have a little bit of background information in terms of just how far we've come. On the one hand, the pursuit of artificial intelligence has been going on for decades. I mentioned that I've been at Community IT for 22 years. Before that, I was a computer science major. I had classes in AI. And so this area, this topic has been around for quite a while. But there's been a couple of things in the recent history that really show us, I think, just how far we've come. So, so part of that is, a really famous artificial intelligence test called the Turing test, named kind of in honor of Alan Turing, was passed in 2022. And so that means that we've had kind of conversational AI occur, right? So you can't tell if you're talking to a computer, you can't tell if you're talking to a person. And so that's a hallmark. And so that is something that we achieved, or the sector achieved in 2022. And then I think it's not an underestimation to say that, the new technology of ChatGPT, part of OpenAI, is really seen as revolutionary. It's just caught people's imagination in a way that no other new technology platform has. And that's really evidenced by the just dramatic growth in user adoption that the ChatGPT platform has had. So by way of example, ChatGPT gained 100 million users in its first 2 months of launch. And so it's just really tremendous end user adoption that has made it the topic of conversation everywhere, and really points to why, maybe at the end of 2022, we weren't really thinking about AI at all. And then all of a sudden by January of 2023, it was everywhere. And that's really driven by the dramatic increase in AI adoption, just how easy it is to use. I mean, the fact that it was free, obviously that doesn't hurt either. But it's really been a dramatic ramp up in AI adoption. And it's something that, every organization has users that are getting experience with those platform and those tools. And I think it's going to be a big driver in how we shape our organizational work here in the future. So specifically for how these AI tools, kind of come into the nonprofit space, there's a whole range of public AI tools and public AI resources. So, the big name one being ChatGPT. So that's kind of free. It's available. You can just go to the website and type in some prompts and get some responses right away. That's under the umbrella of Open AI. Google has its own AI platform. That has now recently been rebranded as Gemini from, it used to be called Bard. And so again, there's lots of name changing in the space, but there's lots of tools that are available that are just kind of publicly available for organizations to get started, experiment with, that are kind of standalone. I think the other thing that we're seeing is that there's just a lot of AI or artificial intelligence being added into the tools and products that you are already using. So, for example, there's the Zoom AI assistant, right? You didn't necessarily have to sign up or do anything extra, but now the AI assistant is something that is just a plug-in and it's available. And I think it's something that organizations or companies are using to provide additional features, additional engagement, make their product easier to use. And so we're seeing AI being adopted into the tools that we already have installed, and we're not necessarily desiring to go out and add new ones. There's certainly a whole set of AI tools that are geared towards geared towards the enterprise or kind of specific product features that you can go out and pursue. And so for enterprise, that's looking a lot like Copilot in the Microsoft world. And you can probably think of a number of other ones where you can buy and sign up and add additional licensing to give you new generative AI capability within your existing platform. And whether that's to help you, generate and write content easier, whether it's, improving the code development process. There's just lots of different specific tool sets that are being developed and marketed for the enterprise to maintain and improve that efficiency. And, I think we're seeing a lot of excitement, a lot of interest in the nonprofit sector on how to use that AI intentionally to, achieve their mission in more ways, to be a lot more efficient. And I think that's a big driver as well, particularly in the corporate sector. How can we be more efficient, or how are these companies using AI tools to gain efficiency in their operations? And I think for the nonprofit sector, because there's just so much work to do, and I think nonprofits have been historically under-resourced, there's never enough time, there's never enough people, there's never enough capacity to really do all the work that needs to be done. My hope and my expectation is that nonprofit organizations are going to be able to engage and leverage these AI tools to meet that gap that exists between the mountain of work that needs to be done and kind of what they have capacity to do as an organization. Maybe they don't have all the human resources available. So hopefully this can be a way to give organizations more capacity to address the needs that are out there. So I think for organizations as they're, maybe, just considering these AI tools, just thinking about this AI adoption, answer those questions. Well, what does it mean for you? Again, one of the things that I think about is, how do I know that the content that I'm reading, right, is it generated by a person or is it generated by AI? Does that matter? If I'm making judgments in terms of grant applications or funding, do I need to have some qualifier if I'm using AI tools to evaluate that? There's how that is being processed really raises a lot of questions. And I think it's important for organizations to engage intentionally about that and be deliberate in their adoption and use of these, really powerful technology tools. So in terms of, what's next in terms of adopting that, there's all these series of questions. What are those AI tools that nonprofits should consider this year and for the future? How are nonprofits utilizing AI? What do decision makers need to know about AI adoption? There's a significant security aspect to this as well. How are the hackers or the threat actors using AI? And then what policies and staff trainings are needed as these AI tools become ubiquitous? I think this is moving very, very fast. And a lot of organizations are really in a position to play catch up when it comes to figuring out, well, how are we going to use these tools? And I think even if organizations are saying, well, hey, we really need to be slow and deliberate, one of the things that we see as a managed service provider that supports, over 7,000 endpoints, we do a lot of security, right? So we get reporting and analytics on where our devices are going. At many organizations, well over half the computers are making visits to ChatGPT, right? And so that's kind of an ungoverned public resource that staff at nonprofits are going to in the absence of any blocks or policy guidance. And so, organizations need to have that appreciation that, staff are innovative, they're creative, they want to use the latest and greatest things that are out there. And so it's likely that staff at the organization are already taking advantage of some of these AI tools, even in the absence of an organization's AI policy and AI policy template. So we'll talk a little bit more about some resources to help guide that coming up, but I do want to just take a little bit more time to kind of talk about some of those different scenarios. And I think some of the early lessons learned that we found in adopting some of these tools. So I think right now the AI tools, I think particularly Microsoft Copilot, it's fantastic. It's a neat product. But it's not necessarily a silver bullet. It's not going to be your digital assistant that you just wave a magic wand and kind of everything just works, right? Particularly for Microsoft. It's called Copilot, and it's designed to work alongside of somebody. It's not a completely autonomous system. And so for these AI tools, they're good, they're inventive, but they're not perfect. And so they still need to be used under advisement, and you need to review the output of everything that's coming out of there, because there's been lots of different situations where AI has kind of invented research citations, or kind of gone off the rails and invented content or invented resources, and so you can't just set it free and expect it to do work and then come back and then everything is fine. So again, so AI needs to be, I think, monitored in terms of how it's being used. I think we found the most benefit in these tools being really on some of the automated meeting note taking, generation of task lists, generating of action items. I find that super helpful. I always want to take meeting notes, but I always get distracted with the conversation. And so being able to have the AI assistant transcribe the meeting and then go beyond transcribing and say, what's the meeting summary? What are my action items? How do I follow up? Like, that's been really invaluable because it has seemed to be pretty accurate, and it provides a capacity that takes a lot of manual time otherwise. So I think that's one good use case that we've seen. So again, meeting note taking, it's been helpful in the work that we do in terms of like some code generation, kind of speeding through that process, and providing some consistency in our kind of code generation and scripting that we've developed. So that's been a great use case. And I think it's also been helpful, I think, for some general content generation. So for organizations that maybe are looking at getting ready or starting some, if you have proposals or general grant applications or general policy work, it can take some time or energy just to get those processes started. And so I found some of the Copilot tools helpful in just getting the ball rolling. So I haven't relied on it for something in whole cloth or from start to finish, but it is great to help you get started or make some edits or review and say, oh, what else may be missing from this policy document, for example. So again, that talks a little bit about some of the good use cases that we're seeing organizations take advantage of now. But again, there's lots of promise for future capabilities, and so I think for organizations that are just getting started, it's great to go into that process with a kind of that blue skies approach, or kind of being open to the possibilities, having a small group be involved in that AI adoption, and providing them resources and tools to get started. So specifically with that, getting started, there's a couple of resources that I did want to highlight. And so the first is just an AI policy template. I think it's important for organizations to have that policy foundation in place to help guide those future decisions. So again, if in the absence of policy, everything is just kind of free range. And so if you can go through a process of developing a framework for your organization in terms of how we're going to adopt it, what are the guardrails that we have in place, what are areas that are acceptable for us to use these tools, maybe what are some prohibited areas for using these tools. I think starting with the policy gives an organization a way to come together and just talk through the different scenarios, the different possibilities that exist, and get something written down so that you can make decisions in a more better. I think it's helpful you can make decisions in a more systematic way moving forward. So again, we have a policy template that's available through our website. It's a free download. And then I would also highlight that I think the Technology Association of Grant Makers, or TAG, has done a lot of work around an AI adoption framework. So again, I think that's a much more sophisticated model. And so that goes into things like, how would we potentially use this tool to evaluate grant applications? How do we identify and address potential areas of bias within the AI models that exist? So there's just, it's a much more sophisticated approach. It's a much more extensive approach. So I think that's a great resource to reference as well. They've engaged with some very thoughtful folks around the framework adoption, and I think it's well done. I think it's a great place to get started. And then I would also highlight that Microsoft as well has their Microsoft AI Compass. And so that's a resource for nonprofits to go through and fill out some basic information about your organization, the sector that you're in, how maybe mature you are in different areas, different process information, and then it'll kind of spit out a report that would highlight different areas that your organization may be able to take advantage of some of the AI tools. So, so again, some good resources that are out there. And like I said, I think the deliberate approach to these AI adoption initiatives is really important so that you don't get into a situation where maybe you are unintentionally disclosing private information into the models. Maybe you are deploying tools in advance and exposing information internally that maybe is not supposed to be available. So again, these AI tools are really powerful. At least in the Microsoft world, they have access to everything that you do as a user, and so if you've been relying on security by obscurity, and you're just kind of hiding things, and all of a sudden you put an AI bot on the system and it's able to scan and discover information, that could be a problem. So again, these AI policies, I think, are designed to help organizations establish that framework to make sure that you keep the integrity of your organization's data secure and give you a little bit of a roadmap to move forward. So I do want to talk a little bit more. We've been talking a little bit about how great AI is and how fantastic all these tools are, but I think it's also important for us to consider a little bit on the risk side of AI as well, specifically for the finance department. And the reason that I think it's important to include finance and security dimension to this is that we're seeing continued rising levels of cybercrime. And I think it's important for organizations to understand that cybercrime, in the vast majority of cases, is financially motivated, right? It's a business, and there are threat actors that are in this to make money. And, the finance departments and the folks there are really targeted by cyber criminals because they have access to the organization's finance and banking information. And that's how these actors are, exploiting weaknesses in the system. So, the numbers are kind of staggering whenever we look at it. So consumers lost $10 billion to scams in 2023. So that's FTC data. So that is like, actual money out the door. that folks were scammed out of last year. And just in the last month, there was an example of a $25 million loss of this is an organization in Hong Kong, but they were scammed out of that money through the use of a deep fake video. So again, a threat actor was able to build a model of the organization's CFO, joined a meeting as this CFO, and authorized the transfer of $25 million into an account that the hacker controlled. So, kind of that example really highlights the need for good systems and processes in place to authorize changes in financial payment information, banking information, and through the use of deepfake technology, just being on camera with somebody may not be enough. And so I think organizations really need to have clear systems and processes in place to verify changes to that payment information, make sure that those things are validated, and make sure that you have high trust in the folks that you're working with. So again, we're talking about cybercrime, the financial motivation there, and the fact that while AI is fantastic for us as a productivity tool, it also means that the threat actors and the bad guys, are using those tools as well. Again, so they can use it to write better phishing emails. They can use it to deepfake video of your, finance team, and it's a pretty good payoff, right? So for a few hours work, they're able to generate $25 million return. So, so having an understanding of this financial dimension of cybercrime, I think, is important because it helps to put things in perspective, right? They're not targeting you, you're not being avoided because you're a nonprofit and you do good work. You're being targeted because you're an organization that has money, and maybe you haven't been able to invest in some of the cyber controls that more sophisticated or larger organizations have been able to do. So to talk just a little bit more about some of the things that you can do as an organization to keep yourself more secure, wanted to highlight a couple of additional controls and some threats that are out there. So we can see in the industry data that there are, like I said, sophisticated attacks out there that are able to, again, steal money, and that usually actually starts with an attack on an individual's identity, right? So the attackers are typically going to try to hack somebody's account, appear as that person, and then manipulate conversations within an organization. And so we've seen this occur in the nonprofit space using some pretty sophisticated adversary in the middle attacks. And so that means that they can steal the MFA tokens for folks if you're using the Authenticator app on your phone or an SMS message, right? So there are ways that information can be stolen now. That occurred last year, and something we're seeing amongst the clients that we're supporting. There are some ways to protect against that. And so for organizations, I think particularly in the finance department, or if you have targeted staff, moving to physical security keys is an important step. So you may also see that called FIDO. So physical security keys are a way to basically provide, hack-proof MFA methods. So again, a little physical token that you can plug into your computer and tap whenever you need to authenticate. So again, those are important transition steps that organizations can take to continue to raise the level of their protection, particularly, I think, in the finance department is where we see the most risk. I think organizations also need to continue to review their cyber liability insurance requirements. We've seen this, maybe the year-on-year renewal rates flatten out a little bit, but we're also seeing a dramatic increase in the required security controls. So again, just having MFA may not be enough. Maybe you need to have MFA. Maybe you need to also have backups of your data. You need to have sophisticated endpoint protection. Maybe you also need to have monitoring of your digital identities. And so the number of controls that organizations are being asked to include as part of their insurance policy continues to increase because the amount of cybercrime particularly financially motivated, continues to increase year over year. So again, there's an insurance dimension to this that is driving a lot of the compliance requirements that we see to cybersecurity controls. And, I would say the last point here is, underlying all of that is, again, training and training and training, right? Getting your staff engaged to understand the risks that they face, as an individual, as an organization, in their unique role. And so investing in, an engaging online training platform is really important, because you can have a lot of technical controls, but again, if you can be kind of tricked into updating payment information or making wire transfers to organizations that you're not 100% confident in, that's easy to subvert a lot of the technical controls. So again, investing in a training program, I think really builds off of that policy foundation that we want to see. Educating staff, making them aware of these different attacks, and then showing them what that looks like. What does it look like to get a spoofed message? What does it look like to review the link and make sure that it's actually legitimate and is coming from a trusted sender. So again, as we wrap up here, just talking a little bit about this cybersecurity best practices, I think organizations should make sure that they have a good cyber liability insurance plan in place. I think organizations should make sure that they have a good training program in place, I think particularly for finance and operations staff. And then I think organizations, if you have not implemented MFA widely, that needs to be something that's on your list. And if you're going to do it, it's really worth going to a really secure method, which would be physical security keys, to help do all you can to protect that digital identity of your staff. So I know that that's a lot, and we covered a lot on the topic of both AI and then how AI is intersecting and causing maybe some additional risk in the cyber world. But I want to thank you for your time, and I think we maybe have time for a few questions as part of that follow-up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matthew. That was super informative. And definitely agree. It's not about if you're going to get a cybersecurity attack or a phishing scam. It's just about when at this point. Mm-hmm. So, awesome. Yeah, I did have a few questions based on what you'd shared. The first one is whether or not you feel like there's any risk associated with not pursuing AI in your business today. Are people falling behind because of this, or are they okay to wait a little bit longer and see how everything plays out?
I think the risk, certainly would be in the area of falling behind. I think the interesting stats that I've seen around AI adoption is that independent contractors are adopting AI at like a much faster rate than everybody else, because I think they see the direct benefit that it has in terms of their own productivity and efficiency. So I do think that, yes, organizations that are adopting AI are going to be leaders in their space. I also don't think it's, you don't need to rush out and turn it on for everybody. So I think having a deliberate approach is important. But I think organizations that really are hands off and saying, hey, like, we're not going to do this at all, I think really are going to fall behind just because of the dramatic efficiency improvements that other people are going to see.
Yeah, definitely. No, it makes total sense. There's a good business case for it in a lot of different places. So awesome. The next question I had is, what do you think about the approach of instead of focusing on broader AI like ChatGPT or Bard or even Copilot in some cases, we're seeing a lot of software applications insulate AI directly within their products, such as Zoom is a good example, and you use summaries. So instead of saying, we're going to use ChatGPT to try to figure out efficiencies, seeking the utilization of AI that's insulated in products we already use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I think that's probably going to be an unavoidable maybe productivity enhancer that organizations are going to face. I think again, from a policy standpoint, and I think from a disclosure standpoint, I do think it's important for organizations to kind of make that clear, like, hey, we're using AI Companion, we are going to record it, we're going to share it, and this is something that we're going to do as an organization. So I think, again, having that policy framework in terms of how and where we're going to use AI and how we're going to disclose it, I think is important. And then I think for organizations, on that efficiency side, I think looking at the organization's workflow, like, what are your processes? Where do you spend the most time? And seeing, how can they be automated or improved? And what does AI do for us in these areas is probably a good way to look at it, right? So obviously, if your organization doesn't, write a lot of content from scratch, then maybe Copilot isn't helpful for you, but maybe there are some built-in tools or maybe add-ons within the existing product set that you're using that are really going to offer those efficiencies. And then so I think for organizations, including ours, like, that's where you want to invest in, what's going to give you the biggest return on investment from a productivity standpoint.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we've definitely found a lot of utilization in the Zoom summaries and then the takeaway, like the to-dos and takeaways, because we would draft a full email and send those to our clients afterwards anyhow. Now that's essentially partially drafted for us, which is great. So
yeah,
awesome. My last question I have is whether or not you've got any cautionary tales about assumptions AI has made or mistakes AI has made in its pursuit of providing content or something for you.
So I don't have any direct examples of things that I think where I've been led astray by AI. I think right now the tooling is still pretty immature, and so I use Copilot. We have licensing for that, and I've definitely been underwhelmed on a regular basis when I go to use it and I submit prompts and it's like, we're not available right now, or I can't give you that information. And so, like I said, it's still a very new product, and so proceed with caution. Don't rely on it, to generate that, term paper at the end of the semester, because it just might not be available.
Yeah.
But I think there's certainly, examples where it has invented references or citations. And I think, again, if you're using it as a tool to make your case and you're relying on it to build, kind of a data-driven decision model, you definitely need to take time to validate the output, because it's not 100% perfect yet.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, I have one story that someone shared with me. They were asking it about old NFL football games, and they made reference to a player and said the player scored a touchdown in the game, and then the person went back and fact checked. And the player was on the injured reserve during that game. So it was weird that it had created that somehow from its database. So yeah, definitely. I see it as a way, use it as a way to generate a first draft, but then read through it critically as you would anything else that you were going to put your name on. So
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this overview and your insights. We appreciate you back here as always.
Great. I hope it's helpful.
Awesome. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We hope you took away some valuable information on what's next for nonprofits and AI tools. If you had a question for Matt that didn't get answered, feel free to email him at cybersecurity@communityit.com or schedule a one-on-one meeting with him with the HubSpot link on the screen. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.